Hey, Maggie, how is Kendra the basil plant? I'm curious about it, and so was Dawson, who asked about it on the website.
You guys know how it is because
I
you
don't know the
saw it when
story.
you were here.
Well,
There's no story. I've been deemed an unfit plant mother.
I didn't hear that. No, I don't remember that.
You don't remember we were all sitting in my living room and my windows were up so you could see outside, and I just pointed and I said, "Look at my basil plant." And there's just a very dead basil plant outside. But get this.
Yes.
I still like water it and like put it in the sun. I don't know if it's like guilt or me just like in denial, but I still take care of it. It's just so dead.
Maybe don't get a puppy just yet.
I know. But I've been on this website for fostering dogs in LA, and I keep looking at like special needs dogs, and I want one so bad, but I don't want the responsibility of being the sole person caring for it.
Yeah, there's going to be a time in your life where that makes a lot more sense. But it's good that you have a huge heart for animals, and you can spend a lot of time with animals. You can help other people in their animals, in life, and so you don't have to necessarily have a dog or a cat to be of service to animals.
Yeah, but I want one.
I know our dogs are having a tough week, especially Spencer.
I know. I was showing all my friends pictures of him in his cone.
In his cone of shame.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got one of those things because so the dogs can't lick themselves, and it's really embarrassing. You could tell he just he puts it on and he's like, I can't believe this is happening. But he's getting better. He's halfway through, or even more than halfway through his antibiotics. And so right now he's cone free.
Yay.
And he knows the rules. He knows if he starts scratching himself or whatever, it goes back on. So we watch him pretty close.
Man. Where is he right now?
Underneath Mom's desk. So we're in the studio. Simon's in the middle of the floor.
Nice.
And both dogs are going to go with us to the mountains. Hey, Simon, you want to go to the mountains?
No, why would you say that?
He's sleeping. He didn't even hear me. Yeah.
Man.
Right after this podcast, in fact. You want to get it started?
Let's do it. Roll the intro music.
Mags and Dads, wholesome chaos. Mags and Dads, wholesome chaos.
What do you want to talk about first?
Something on your list.
Fraternities.
Yes. Fraternities was a question that we got from a viewer, actually from my TikTok channel, who asked me, hey, have you ever been in a frat? And so I mentioned that to you because I have not. I have not been in a frat.
Yeah.
Well, I've been in a frat house. In fact, when I was a freshman in college, frat parties were a big thing. They were huge in Athens, Georgia. The B-52s, REM, Widespread Panic were all big bands out of Athens, and they would, at the time, have these huge parties in the big lawns at the frat parties. Eventually, after my freshman year, something happened, and there was this huge incident, and that went away. But I remember seeing Widespread Panic my freshman year, and I had the ability to eat fire. And so I would I'd eat fire. I wouldn't eat farts. I'd eat fire at frat parties. And it was a great way to get to know people. But have you ever been in a frat, Maggie?
I just snorted. I've been
a sorority.
Well, here's the thing. Technically, my sorority was a fraternity.
What?
Legally, my sorority is a fraternity. I think it's because when...
I think you said paternity.
Yeah, frat.
That's a totally different thing.
No, I didn't. I said fraternity.
Okay.
But I think what happened was when it was founded a long time ago, it was the girls' brothers who filed everything.
Huh.
And so it's legally a fraternity, but it's all girls and it's very sorority-esque. Yeah, my Greek life experience was interesting. I also went to college during the pandemic, and so chapter was always online, and it was
initiation, orientation, all that. Yeah.
Yeah, and to be fair, I was not super committed to I'm gonna go like commit myself to this group of people and like have a great time. Like my college experience was really like mainly just like me and my roommate and like 2 other friends we had.
Yeah.
And like we were so content in that. So yeah, I didn't have the wildest sorority frat experience. I do remember.
But it was a good group of friends, right? Long pause.
Here's the interesting thing. All my like high school friends and people that I would meet in college, like when I would tell them I was in a sorority, they'd be like, wait, really? Like, you don't seem like you'd be in a sorority. Like, that doesn't seem like a good fit for you. And I was like, why did no one tell me this before I went through Rush and before I pledged and before I paid my dues?
I thought about it too.
Why
I
didn't you
should've
say
told you.
anything that, hey, maybe you're not a sorority girl?
Well, you got to let your kids figure some things out for themselves. Plus,
Jokes-
I thought it could help. I thought it could be helpful and give you like a community of people. I mean, college ended up a lot different than anybody expected, but
Yeah.
that's the thing. It can be crazy and it can be stressful, and it's good to have people around you, regardless of where you find them. And speaking of stress, you know, that's an issue that's so huge for everyone in the world these days. I was writing about it this morning, and it's on my mind. It's on everyone's mind. And I've got a great solution for you because this podcast is actually sponsored by BetterHelp. People don't always recognize that physical symptoms like headaches, teeth grinding, even digestive issues can be indicators of stress. And let's not forget about doom scrolling, sleeping too little, sleeping too much, undereating, and overeating. I have probably been sleeping too little. And what happens with me when I get in stressful situations, thinking about you and Eddie and his move and my career and speeches that are coming up and things I want to do and things I need to do and whatever. It's like I get these like thought viruses in my brain while I'm sleeping. You know what I'm talking about? Where it just kind of expands and suddenly you can't turn your brain off and it's stressful. And I get up, I stretch a lot, but it's like sometimes you need to talk to someone who's really an expert in these things in your life.
Yeah, stress shows up in all kinds of ways. And in a world that's telling you to do more, sleep less, and grind all the time, here's your reminder to take care of yourself, do less, and maybe try some therapy. I started BetterHelp when I moved out to LA, actually, because I was in completely new surroundings. So much of it could have been very, very stressful. And it was nice to kind of have a consistent place that I could go to relieve some of that stress.
Yeah. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to.
It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, so give it a try and see if online therapy can help lower your stress.
Mags and Dad's Wholesome Chaos listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/wholesome.
That's BetterHelp.com/wholesome. I have something that I kind of want to really focus on in this next, I was going to say period of my life, but just like always, actually. I want to tell other people's stories less. Does that make sense?
What do you mean by that, Maggie?
Like when you're in a conversation or you're meeting someone, and I feel like the natural instinct is if they say something and you know something that can apply to it because it's a friend's story or a friend's experience, I feel like it's the natural tendency to share that. However, I don't think that's always the most respectful thing.
I see.
Even if it's not something crazy personal, I just think that maybe that's not your story to tell.
Yep.
And then what if one day those two people meet and they want to tell that story, and then that person says, no, they already told me. It's kind of, somebody told me one time that like, gossip doesn't inherently have to be negative. It doesn't inherently have to be tearing people down. Like, I went to a summer camp growing up where something they talked about was like good gossip. Like just being like, oh, did you see how incredible so-and-so did at something and how great that is? However, I do think that like just sharing other people's stories all the time as like a way to fill a conversation or a way to have something to say is still just maybe not the best thing.
I totally support that, Maggie. In the Jewish faith, they have a term for that called Lashon hara, which technically translated means evil speech. But like you said, it's not necessarily about the negative things that you say about someone. It's sharing anything that might be intimate or personally known about them that is essentially not your story to tell. And there's a great parable about this. And then the belief is essentially that gossip or negative talk about someone is actually a worse crime than stealing. Because if you steal from someone, you can give it back. Like you could find a way to remedy that wrong and make it right again. But someone came to the priest and said, or the rabbi and said, I'm guilty of this sin, and I've done this. I've been speaking and saying bad, negative things about my friends or the people in my community. And he said, okay, this is what I want you to do. Take a feather pillow, go out to the center of the square today because it's very windy. And I want you to open up the pillow, just cut it open and scatter the feathers and then come back to me. And so he did and came back and he said, okay, I've done what you've asked me. And he said, okay, then now the next thing I want you to do is go pick up all the feathers. And the moral of the story is you can't. Yeah. Because once those words take flight, once they hit the wind and the winds of gossip and other people's stories, like you can't get it back.
Yeah.
So that's why it's really important to guard your speech.
You and I have actually talked about this and like that specific thing in the Jewish faith as well. And I think that was probably embedded somewhere in my mind. But yeah, I think that's just because I know I said before, like one of my goals this year is just to like be the best friend that I can be. And I think that's going to be a part of it. And that's exciting.
That's been a real mark of my friendships is I've developed the reputation of being a confidant, being the kind of person you can go to and say something and you just know it's like locked in the vault of our friendship. I'm not going to repeat that to anyone else unless you tell me it's okay. And let me give you a few examples of that. No, I'm no, but I pride myself on that because it's like one of those qualities, like you don't have to go out and accomplish something great to achieve that level, that specific reputation skill set. You just have to be a good, true friend and apologize when you get things wrong and start over. That leads to a question. Well, speaking of getting things wrong, something that's been on my mind and kind of in my heart, last week we talked about Frankenstein and I was reading that book. And this week I've been really into reading another book. And I finished it, or actually I'm like a couple of pages away from finishing it. And I was excited to talk about this book on this week's podcast, which is the Will Smith autobiography called Will. Yeah.
So let's skip this right now.
No, I think we could talk about this. Like, obviously a lot of time has passed from the incident at the Oscars, and it's no point in like rehashing all of that negativity, but I just feel this huge disappointment in my heart because on some level, I'm a huge fan of Will Smith. I've followed his career a long time, and I love his book. His book goes deep into some profound truths and learning throughout his life journey, which has been very difficult. And so I'm like on the guy's side in his life, and then this incident happens, and it's like it feels like such a breach of trust to the people like me that care about him. Yeah, go ahead. I know that's uncomfortable for you to even bring that up on the podcast, but I'm just trying to be honest and keep it real.
No, well, you and I had a conversation about this too, and I think it was interesting how different our perspectives were in the matter of like kind of being like, this is going to follow him for the rest of his life versus my perspective where I was like, truly, I see this not being a huge talk for a long time. Like, and I think a lot of it, I told you, is like my generation's response where it was like minutes after and it's a meme. Yeah. Where it's just kind of we're scavengers for entertainment in a sense, which I think is a natural human instinct, to just find the entertainment in situations. However, I truly do see this being a thing where in maybe 5 years, you just see a meme resurface that's like, hey, remember when like this happened? And everyone's like, oh yeah, that's crazy.
Totally.
But yeah.
And it's a TikTok sound, and like the audio from the awards over and over again has been reused in so many different ways.
Oh yeah, there's trends.
But what I'm talking about is like when you read someone's book, you really get a sense like you know that person. You can't fake it for 300 or 400 pages. And especially when you reveal so much of your journey. Like, for example, in Will Smith's book, he talks about his mother being hit by his father. And one of his lifelong beliefs was that he was a coward and a regret that he never stood up for his mom. And so on some level, you're like, okay, that was possibly playing in his psyche on some level. And then just, some lower points of his life, and just there were a lot of like violent kind of scenes in and around, and he was not immune from that. It's tough. It's just really tough. But, I feel like it may not matter to the world, but I think that on some level, Will Smith will always regret that. And for him, that Oscar award will always remind him of that. And in a way, it takes out the joy, some of the joy and notoriety of the accomplishment. It's also terrible for all the people in the cast of the movie, King Richard, who were there to celebrate this night. And now
that was such a good movie.
It was a great movie and an amazing performance. He deserved it.
I did see videos of him at the after party dancing it up. So I don't know. I don't know. He seemed like he was having a good time.
Yeah.
But yeah, crazy. We're all human.
Time will tell.
We all make mistakes.
Exactly. And by the time this podcast comes out, there might be new chapters to the story, and nobody knows, the complete and total truth. That's for sure. But it's certainly not any kind of an action that you could ever justify or advocate. So, yeah, that's why Mom too. Mom was also kind of saddened by that as well. So, hey, speaking of Mom, guess what she told me the other day?
What?
She is going to leave me. That's actually what she said. I'm leaving you, honey. But no, not in that way. What she told me is actually she's leaving me to go on a language immersion experience. And we've been talking about this kind of thing for a long time.
Yeah.
And learning languages. And she wants to go to a Spanish-speaking country. She's narrowing that down right now for at least a few weeks and kind of immerse herself in that learning environment, which we've all talked about wanting to do. And she's like, I'm done waiting for you. I'm just going to go do it. But
you are going, right?
Well, I don't think it would be beneficial if I went. I think she'd learn faster if I wasn't there.
You don't want to learn?
Well, I do. But here's the thing. For me, I think it's going to take more than 2 weeks. I think it would take months. And there's always that tricky part about
You never know, though.
Yeah, you never know. It could be helpful and beneficial. But really, for most of us, our experience with learning a second language in high school or college wasn't exactly a high point of our academic careers. I took French. I thought I'd be different than others who were learning Spanish. In retrospect, maybe not the best choice, but I learned French in high school and then in college. And I took it in college at 7:50 in the morning on the other side of my campus from where I lived. So every day I'd walk up the hill, get there at the early hours. I was tired. I didn't really retain much. But now, thanks to Babbel, the language learning app that sold more than 10 million subscriptions, there's an addictively fun and easy way to learn a new language. Whether you'll be traveling abroad like Mom, connecting in a deeper way with family, or you just have some free time, Babbel teaches bite-sized language lessons that you'll actually use in the real world.
I'm interested in a lot of different languages. I think it would be so amazing to be bilingual, trilingual, and the main ones that I'm interested, I'd say, were Spanish and French. And I know a little bit of each of them, just like from, learning, picking things up. I took Spanish in high school, but again, didn't really retain much of it. Babbel's 15-minute lessons make it the perfect way to learn a new language on the go.
Other language learning apps use AI for their lesson plans, but Babbel's lessons were created by over 100 language experts.
Their teaching method has been scientifically proven to be effective.
With Babbel, you can choose from 14 different languages, including Spanish, French, Italian, and German.
Plus, Babbel's speech recognition technology helps you to improve your pronunciation and accent.
There are so many ways to learn with Babbel. In addition to lessons, you can access podcasts, games, videos, stories, and even live classes. Plus, it comes with a 20-day money-back guarantee.
Start your new language learning journey today with Babbel.
Right now, save up to 60% off your subscription when you go to Babbel, BABBEL.com/Mags. That's Babbel, BABBEL.com/Mags, MAGS, for up to 60% off your subscription. Babbel, language for life. Hey, Mags, you're a promo code.
I was about to say, I've never been a promo code before. Oh my goodness.
I'm so proud of you. You've made it. That's amazing.
Officially made it.
I'm definitely going to try that out. And especially with the 60% discount, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So honey, sign yourself up for Babbel, use that promo code, and get ready to leave me.
I think we found this week's title.
Yeah, I think so too.
Man.
Hey, I've got a report from a listener that is really kind of cool. Check this out. This comes from Teresa. And Eddie, this one's for you. Listen, I listened to podcast 38 where you talked about old friendships that seemingly just died over time. I'm 31 years old. And I had a best friend from kindergarten through 8th grade that had a falling out on my freshman year of high school. Today, at 31 years old, I found her on Facebook and apologized for how our friendship ended up because of petty things.
Aww.
I have felt that weight for so many years, and I feel so much at peace just from sending the message. I hope she responds, but if she doesn't, I'm okay that I chose to close that chapter finally. Thank you for the encouragement, Eddie, and for being honest about your friendship story. Teresa.
That's amazing. I love that. Wow.
Isn't that cool?
That's great.
So Eddie's doing great. He's out in California already and just getting on with his life and into incredible, exciting things. And he's going to continue to be helping us with the podcast and helping me with my TikToks.
Yeah.
I haven't made a TikTok in a while. I've been kind of in a slump. You ever get that way?
Yeah. It's hard. People actually know, because I feel like a lot of people do make TikToks, so they know that they are kind of difficult and time consuming. But especially, like, even I was thinking this morning, I was like, okay, well, I start this morning, I'm filming the podcast, and I have a lunch with my team. Then I have to go to this event, and then I have a friend's birthday. I was like, okay, when do I make content? Because I haven't made a TikTok in like 2 days, and that stresses me out.
Yes.
And it's insane. It's insane. And a part of me doesn't want to like push content that I'm not enjoying, and that is just going to be something so forced. But then a part of me also feels the pressure to like be consistent. And I know you get all that as well. And it's just difficult.
Yeah, I totally get it. I did one, and Eddie actually helped me out. He went through my comments and suggested some ideas and looked at some things people asked for and said, yeah, you could just do this really quick, because you get in that loop when you're like, I don't know what I want to do, and I don't know what people will react to or like, which is the wrong mindset. You can't be thinking about what they want. You need to come from a place of like, this is who I am, and this is what I'm about, and this is what I'm all about. And so that's where content, I think, comes from the easiest and usually where it does the best.
Yeah. It's also been difficult for me to get content done, considering I spend every night on the pickleball court until they cut the lights off. Get this, Dad. The lights go off every night at 10:26 p.m.
How about that?
Exactly. Isn't that strange? But no, I spend hours on the pickleball court a week. I spend probably 5 to 10 hours on the court.
That's fun. Maybe you should be making some pickleball content.
Oh, maybe. But it's a little bit different because this is like a court where there's a lot of people. It's not like a reservation type thing. And so people get very serious about pickleball very quickly. And so there's a whole system where you put your paddles in this rack, and then as a court frees up, the next section goes. I was playing with some friends the other day, and this man came up to us because I guess we were taking a little while, but we're all pretty matched. Like, the people I play with, we're pretty matched in our skill set. So the games do take a while because you get tied. Sometimes you have to win by 2, so sometimes the game goes over. And we were playing. I don't think we were even playing for that long. And this guy just walks by and he goes, "You guys have to start keeping score." And we were like, "We are. Like, we always do. Every single time we play. Because we know how to play." But we've started playing with strangers a little bit. We've started making friends at the pickleball court, learning people's names. But I wanted to tell you, do you remember specifically about 2 days ago when I called you and Mom, and I called you guys in the car and said, I'm on my way to the pickleball courts, even though it's a little rainy outside, rain or shine, And what you guys told me.
Slippery.
Specifically.
We were like,
what?
Slippery. Like, be careful because the course can get slippery. Mom said that.
Yeah, you guys said be careful. You might slip. You might fall. And I said, I don't think so. I don't think I'm going to fall.
I can hear what's coming.
No. It was the first point.
Oh, no.
And they were serving to me. And so I was retrieving it. And I start running for it. And I slip mid-run, literally do like a turn and slide and skin my knee through my sweatpants. I turn back around, I look up, and all 3 of them are around me. I was like, you guys got here quick. I appreciate that, for real. But my leg is literally bleeding a little, and I think it was Mitch who said, he was like, "Dude, the ball was out too."
Oh, man.
Like, all that for a ball that literally was out.
So did anybody slip after that?
No. Oh, actually, I did. It would appear I did again, but I didn't fall. I think I caught it.
Therein lies
the
the theory. Like, did you slip because the courts were slippery, or did we imply, like, plant that seed in your mind that the courts are slippery, you're going to slip and fall, thus like increasing the probability that you would actually slip and fall, and you were following through on our intention subconsciously?
Man, it could have been a combination of things. I thought it was so funny though. And nobody else was on the courts, weirdly enough. So that was nice.
Mom's shaking her head at me because that's a recurring pattern of a conversation that happens a lot in our relationship, where she's warning me to be careful at moments where I need to summon my confidence. And it's like, at the moments I'm trying to like execute something really confidently, I don't need to be thinking about the seeds of doubt. But it's also very wise to consider the cautionary elements, and that's her motivation, is to make sure I'm safe. So
oh yeah, for sure.
It's just a healthy little tension between us, right, honey?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. She said, yeah, sure. Healthy tension, kids. That's what that is. So when are you going to Puerto Rico for the Spanish thing? No.
Oh my. My
We're
mom
good.
and dad
We're just
will be
joking,
practicing BetterHelp couples therapy after this. And they'll be doing it in a different language that they learned from Babbel.
No, we love each other so much. In fact, we're going to the mountains to be together for 3 days, and Mom actually referred to it as our next honeymoon. Yeah.
Aww.
When she's not on mic right now, but basically when we got married, we decided that we were going to take honeymoons regularly. Like, why should you have only one honeymoon to celebrate your marriage? That seemed ridiculous. So we had an initial honeymoon where we flew to Washington, the state of Washington, rented an RV and drove around the state for a couple weeks and just exploring and like cramming our lives together in this RV, this motorhome.
Nice.
Which is a great metaphor for marriage, actually. Like, you guys are going to live together for the rest of your life, so work it out in this little metal box. That was helpful. No, but it was amazing. And then 6 months later, we went on our next honeymoon. Do you remember where that was, honey?
It might have been Disney, I think, at 6 months. And then at 1 year, it was
Jamaica.
Jamaica. Oh.
Was that 1 year?
Maybe. I'm not sure. But I know it was like every 6 months for like the first 2 years, we seemed to be out of town doing some kind of trip. So it was awesome.
It was awesome. Our whole life has been one big honeymoon. Yep. In Jamaica, I had on sunglasses and I was shirtless walking around or something. And there was a rumor going around that Tom Cruise was at the resort.
No, I love that.
The entertainment director like immediately saw him and told him like, come here. And so we went over there and she like looks at him and she's like thinking this is Tom Cruise. But she looks at me and like, I'm definitely not Nicole Kidman. She's like,
that was who he was married to at the time.
Yeah, at the time. She's like, oh, you look like Tom Cruise.
You know how I have my dream bit that I want to do with you, me, and Steve Carell?
Yes.
I feel like we could also do it with Tom Cruise. Whichever opportunity presents itself first. I'm not going to say the bit because I want everyone to be surprised.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
But
it's going to break the internet, I think.
I think it's so good. It's so simple, so perfect. Oh, man. I'd take Steve or Tom. Either one.
Well, you know, we have 6 degrees of separation to Steve Carell.
Oh, yeah.
More like 2 or 3.
Yeah, but probably 6. Don't you have 6 to everyone? So hypothetically, we'd have 6 to Tom as well.
Oh, yes. Definitely. So, but that should not be our major life goal, I don't think.
No, it'll happen in due time.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, we should probably welcome people to the podcast and introduce ourselves.
Like 40 minutes in. Hey guys.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dan Thurman. That's my daughter, Maggie Thurman.
Hey. It's our podcast, Wholesome Chaos.
Where we talk about real life in real time to help each other and also help you.
In a very real way.
In a very real, down-to-earth way. And we let it all hang out, but we don't talk about our friends and what they said. We might have done that on previous podcasts. We let it all hang
out? Wait.
You know.
Don't say we let it all hang out.
Okay.
I did not like that.
We don't let it all hang out. We let some of it hang out.
The Father-Daughter podcast. No. Different phrasing. You might have heard us tell stories about our friends in the past. However, due to recent lawsuits, no, that's not true. That's not true, guys.
No, but I don't think we've told stories out of school though on the podcast about other people. And if we did,
no,
Mom deleted it afterward.
we try and be very conscious of that. Yeah, I will say, oh my gosh, maybe I shouldn't. No, I could say this. Maybe. Mom, maybe cut this later. I talk to Mitch all the time about how, Mitch is one of my really good friends out here, and we're also both from Atlanta. And so when I was home for the holidays, he flew in a few days later, asked if I could pick him up from the airport. Dad met him. We had coffee. It was fun. And then we talked about it on the podcast. And I told Mitch that we talked about it on the podcast. And he was like, oh my gosh, great. Like, I'll listen. And he was like, and then your dad crapped all over me.
I did.
He was like, because you were like, yeah, I think it was a little unnecessary that you had to go pick him up. Wasn't really worth it or something.
Oh, I don't think I said that. I hope that wasn't implied. I really enjoyed it.
I told him.
I enjoyed meeting Mitch.
No, and you really like Mitch too.
I do.
And I tell him that all the time, but... Yeah, I thought that was really funny. Where he was like, "Why would you tell me to listen to that?"
Now I've got to go back and remember what I said. But
we were just talking about the ridiculous nature of all the aspects of it combined. Where it was like waking up at 4 a.m.
after you had just gotten in late the night before. Yeah. Yes.
It was a very interesting.
I was glad we did it. I was really glad we got to go do that together. And
yeah, the ridiculous point was your decision to say, yeah, I'm going to get in at late and then get up before, a few hours later and go back to the airport. It wasn't about Mitch. It was about like your commitment to.
Yeah. It was totally about crazy. The circumstances.
And this was before I knew what great friends you were and that he would come to your rescue when you slipped and fell on a pickleball court. Like instantly, he was there for you. So, man.
Actually, he was the one serving, so maybe he caused it.
Oh, man. Well, it was out. You
was out. He's working on his serve. It's okay. But here's the question is now do I tell him?
Please tell Mitch I said hello.
I will. But do we tell him we talked about him on this podcast? That's the thing. My friends don't really listen to the podcast. So part of me is like, sure, I'll talk about him.
It's a lot to keep up with.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But no, we're not telling other people's stories anymore. Starting now. That's a hard thing to do when you have a podcast.
Exactly. It's very difficult.
Oh my goodness. I'm working on it, guys. I'm still flawed.
So I have another question for you, Maggie. This one came in from Emily, and she said, hey, Mags, Dad, and fam. So that includes you too, Shay. We want to hear from you. I'd love for each of you to give us your own answers here. What is the best piece of advice you've ever been given? The best piece of advice you've ever been given about anything. And if you have multiple answers, you can share those as well. That's from Emily. I think that's a really good question.
Yeah. I would say never cook bacon naked is high up there. I think you told me that, Dad.
Shirtless. I might have said shirtless. I might have said naked.
I think you said naked, but like kind of meaning shirtless, you know, or just even in short sleeves. It can get dangerous.
Yes.
But that's not my real answer.
Is that the best advice I've ever given you, though? Come on.
No, I'm kidding. One of the best pieces of advice, I feel like I've received a lot of good advice in my lifetime, but one of the ones that I find constantly relevant is the I have nothing to prove, only to share. Whenever you go into a situation, literally just your presence is a gift to it. Your contribution is a gift. So just going into things with the mindset of, I don't have to prove anything. I literally just have all that I can offer to share. And like my personal gifts and everything like that was a really good bit. Comparison is the thief of joy. Great one as well. Yeah, I had one more, but I can't think of it right now. I'll think of it while someone else goes.
Do you want to go, honey? Mom's turning herself up. Here she comes.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, Shay Thurman on the mic.
Whoop, whoop.
And so I don't know that this was advice per se, but a book that I have read from time to time. It's not a book that you read from cover to cover, but just the title in itself, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. And it's all small stuff.
Yeah.
Because I would stress out about not getting everything done. You're never going to get everything done. And like, I know that. Like, I'm not a stupid person, but sorry, not allowed to say stupid. But when I read that, I was like, thank you for permission to not worry about all the details that don't matter. So that was a good piece of advice there. And also, I think it was 1994, your dad and I went to a motivational conference and saw Zig Ziglar for the first time. And he said, we are 10 times more productive the day before vacation than any other day. And how do you become more productive on those other days?
That's good.
And so from that day on, boy, I kicked it into high gear, and I have been so much more productive, but just more satisfied with having a great day's work instead of just, punching a clock or just doing what has to be done or whatever. It's like I love to work hard and then relax at the end of the day going, yeah, this was a great day.
That's good, honey. Yep. Every day is like the day before vacation. And his point was like, because you're very focused, you're very organized, you have a time limit, you know exactly what you need to do, and you knock it out. And so that's great. I have like a few different thoughts. One is about marriage. When we were getting married, we were at the engagement shower at my mom's house. My parents threw an engagement shower for us. And someone came up to me and said, I have a bit of advice for your marriage. Your wife is going to ask you from time to time, Dan, what do you think about, and she's going to say like a situation where she'll ask your response. What do you think about blank? And in those instances, this is what you say. I don't know. What do you think? Because of this is so killer. And it took her years to catch on that I was doing it. But no, seriously, it's like, because when you say, I don't know, what do you think? She gets to tell you what she thinks, which is really the whole point of the question anyway. Like she's coming to you, not because she's confused and wants you to solve a problem, but because she wants to have this conversation and has an idea about what she thinks should happen or what she thinks about it.
Interesting.
And so plus when you say, I don't know, what do you think? Like it gives you more time to think about what you really do think.
Yeah,
and you don't have to
for
answer
sure.
right away. So you get to go second. That's probably the single best piece of advice I've ever gotten. With regard to parenting, this came from Tony Campola, and I think I maybe mentioned this on the podcast a long time ago. He said, don't worry about your kids rebelling. It's their job to rebel. Your job is to carefully and meticulously prescribe that which they rebel against, because that's what they will return to when their own way isn't working. That's pretty darn powerful. To basically, you're not trying to win over your kids, you're trying to prescribe to them and live a measure of truth. And then if you're a traveler like me and you're married and you travel, I heard this once and it was just really profound advice. 3 rules for travelers who are married. Number 1, never do anything out of town you wouldn't do at home, which is a great rule, which covers a lot of things in terms of who you'd hang out with or what you'd eat or how you'd entertain yourself or whatever. And so that's a good one. Second rule is always bring a good book, because you're going to have downtime and you can always further your education. And the third rule is never start whistling while you're packing, which takes a minute to think about. Right. I told this in a room full of speakers and it was hilarious because it was like this delay and then the whole room erupts in laughter, because whistling while you're packing is like the celebration of like, I get to go out of town right now and you don't, and you're not going with me. It's like the conundrum of you find yourself in these amazing, beautiful hotel rooms, you know, in situations on the beaches or whatever. And you're like, should I even tell my wife like how great this place is or send her a picture? No. Don't whistle while you pack. We have a different issue in our house, though, because often I catch mom whistling while I'm packing, which is a whole different deal.
Man.
Yeah, that's just because I'm far more productive when he's out of town, because he's a huge distraction. So a good distraction, but I need a little time now and then to paint a room, build something, you know, get stuff done.
Yeah. Can I talk about something? Can I say something?
Yep.
Please, can I say something?
Please do.
I have something I want to say.
I want to hear it. Would you say it already, please?
Yeah, oh my gosh. Okay, yeah, let me just say it. Mom, can I... I'm sorry, I'm being annoying. Okay. I've been watching New Girl recently because it's one of my favorite comedic shows. And I've also been listening to some of the Rewatch podcast with some of the cast members. And they did an interview with Jake Johnson, who plays Nick on it, who I think is one of the funniest actors alive. And they were talking about how much work went into New Girl. The episodes are roughly 22 minutes. I want you guys both to guess how many hours of filming a week they did, because you like, for network television, you mostly like shoot one episode a week for it to come out. I want you to guess how many hours for one episode, a 22-minute episode.
How many hours of filming or how many hours of like work?
Filming work, like on set.
Well, on set, I think like a network sitcom, it's a week-long production. There's like the table read on Monday, and then you go into some conversation about the episode. The actors kind of bring it to life and work out some blocking, and they bring that back to the writers, and the writers gonna like turn it over for the Tuesday, Wednesday, and then you like do a dress, and then the filming is on Friday, generally if you're in front of a live audience. But I don't know that was in front of an audience.
It's not a live audience type beat. It's not live audience. It's filming all week. So amount of time
filming, I'd say 20 hours.
I'd say
of filming.
35.
Okay. That 22-minute episode, 80 hours of filming a week.
Wow.
Yeah, like an 80-hour work week. I believe that. If you include all the work that's going into it, but that's not actively filming.
No, I think it's like they literally talked about, because there's so much improv and like bits that the actors themselves bring.
Okay.
So like the coverage, the alternates, the bits that didn't even make it in. Like obviously the episodes would be longer and then they'd cut it down to 22 minutes.
Yep.
But literally, I think it was Jake Johnson who said like a few minute dinner table scene. They would film it for 12 hours.
That makes sense. Actually, because even for my little 2-minute weekly videos. Remember I did that? I was like, how long do those take every week for me to do my 2-minute coaching videos? And between like writing it, shooting it, editing it, your work or mom's work on the project, uploading it, each one of those is like 8 hours of work to be consumed in 2 minutes. That's it. That's why, producing content is so much, it's so difficult.
Yeah, but that's also like with the editing and everything.
Yeah,
too.
Exactly. True.
Yeah.
Good point. Speaking of TV, we hit a monumental marker yesterday. Mom and I finished Alias. All 5 seasons.
About time.
Oh my gosh, about time. I think I was actually done about 2 seasons ago, but we had to see it through. We don't quit what we start in this family. We see it through to the end, even though it probably jumped the shark quite a while ago, which is a term, if you don't know, my dear listener, that refers to like the show going a little bit too far. It comes from the Happy Days episode, Once Upon a Time, where Fonzie, who was a motorcycle biker who jumped like cars on motorcycles, jumped sharks on water skis while wearing a leather jacket. And everybody agreed that was like the end of the show. That it took a while for it to actually be the end, but that's typically how it goes. Now, we loved it for the most part. It was really fun. There's this thing we do every episode. It starts with the first few minutes of the show, like they establish the plot and pull you into the story, and then it kicks into the theme song. And the theme song for Alias is probably like 30, 45 seconds of like this really driving heavy rhythm. And it's really just this catchy rhythm. But it's all instrumental. And as soon as it clicks, Mom and I break into dancing no matter where we are. And we have different moves that we do. And every time we dance it a little bit differently. And Simon never got used to that. Like he would always look at us like we were just so annoying.
Oh, that's so fun though.
I'm going to miss that dance with you, honey. I know. We have to come up with a new show and a new dance because that was the best part.
Man.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the best part, Maggie, this has been an amazing podcast. I'm really glad I got to share a lot of laughs with you.
Me too.
You lift me up, girl. You lift me up and you make me happier just being able to connect with you, or throughout the week when you reach out and check in with us and let us know what you're doing and ask how we're doing. It's just so wonderful. And I'm so grateful to have you connected at this phase of your life with us in this wonderful way.
That's so sweet. Thank you. I love you guys so much.
We love you too. And everyone, thanks for listening. Please go out to wholesomechaos.com and you can leave your question. Honestly, we really want to know what's going on with you. We read all of our questions. We answer many of them on the air or directly to you by replying to your emails, wholesomechaos.com. There's also some other resources there for family communication and all sorts of other things too. Be sure to check out our sponsors and support them as a way of showing them you care about their contribution to this podcast and for helping bring this to you today. So thank you again. And Maggie, we sure love you. Have a great week.
I love you guys. You too.
All right. We love you too, everyone. Take care and talk to you again next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Mags and Dads, wholesome chaos. Mags and Dads, wholesome chaos.
How long do you think it takes us to film a podcast, Maggie? If it takes New Girl 80 hours to do a 22-minute episode, how long does it take us to do a podcast?
Are we counting editing time?
No. Well, no.
I'd say, well, considering we hopped on this call at 10 a.m. my time and it's noon, I'd say roughly around 2 hours.
Yes.
Which is interesting because we don't really stop and start.
Well, it took us a long time to start today.
Sorry.
Yeah.